Now, have you ever been on holiday, eaten somewhere, and let's just say you felt like you were being ripped off? Well, I'm going to share with you what I've done over the last 20 years to absolutely guarantee it won't happen again. So let's do it. Now, let's kick off with perhaps the oldest trick in the book, perhaps even the most common. So you sit down at the table, almost immediately the waiter comes over, sticks a basket of bread on the table. It may even be some olives or even a bottle of water. And you think, wow, fantastic service, local hospitality at its finest. But in some cases, what you've got there is definitely not free. And of course, you won't know that until the bill arrives. And that's even if you look at it. So you could say you've just paid an extra, 5, 6, 7 or more euros for something you just didn't want. And in the case of the bottle of water, it can actually be even worse. Because sometimes what they do is they take an empty bottle of very expensive branded water and fill it with much cheaper version, or even worse, tap water. And then without asking, they'll come to the table and pretend to open it in front of you and pour it so you won't know. So what's the solution to all of this? Well, it's simple. If you didn't ask for it, assume it's not free. So when it arrives, politely and firmly ask the waiter to remove it from the table. Remember, you're the customer and it's your money. So the next one, little less common, and it mainly happens in tourist traps. And it's what I like to call the two-tiered menu trap. Essentially, the place has two menus, one for locals, and yes, you guessed it, one for tourists. And again, you can guess which one of them has the higher prices for the same things. So how do you beat that one? Well, your best defense begins even before you walk into the place and sit down. Look around outside for a menu displayed outside the restaurant and take a quick photo of the prices. Then when you sit down and get a menu, just compare them with your photo. Or even better, look for a QR code. Many places are starting to have them now anyway, and it'll either be on a table or obviously somewhere else. Scan it and again compare the prices that way. Because a digital menu from a QR code is difficult to change quickly, and it's less likely to have two versions like the printed menus. Another one with menus is when the waiter at the table keeps a hold of it, sticks it under their arm and leans in and says something like, "Oh, you look nice people, forget the menu. Today, just for you, we've got two fantastic and wonderful dishes." And it comes with a cocktail. Never, ever, ever fall for that trick. If they won't give you a menu, you should be backing away slowly. It's a deliberate tactic to establish a price after you've eaten everything and before you pay the bill. Now, here's a really classic one, again, especially in tourist spots. A great example, and some of you out there may even know this, is in Rhodes, Old Town, in a very touristy spot called Hippocrates Square. And it's what I call the novelty glass nightmare. So, you order a standard size beer or a cocktail, and then the waiter returns with an absolutely massive boot-shaped beer or a fishbowl size cocktail. And they insist, well, that's the standard size, that's what you ordered. It's not, it's a scam, and it's a very expensive one, with prices anywhere 30, 40, 50 euros plus. Be extremely specific. For instance, order a small beer or a medium beer. Point to the size of the glass, if there is one there already on a table next to you. And if, regardless of that, if anything bigger arrives than what you think you've ordered, refuse it immediately. Because once you touch it and take a sip, that's it. You've accepted their terms and you're going to have to pay. Now, if you want to end up with a bill, let's just say that could even rival your airfare, this is your ticket. This is what I call the fish weight guessing game. You see, fresh fish is often sold by the kilo in many countries throughout Europe. Even worse is like shellfish, like crab or lobster. And obviously the waiter relies on you not knowing the true value, the true weight of the meat you're going to actually end up with, meaning you're paying for something, and in the case of shellfish, for that heavy inedible shell. You may also actually even be charged for the weight of the head and the tail and large bones of the whole fish, which is standard in some countries, but I think sometimes that's still a little unfair. And lastly, you might actually order a type of fish which is naturally very bony. Look at trout, for instance, meaning the amount of actual meat on your plate looks, shall we say, a little tiny compared to the actual fish you ordered in the first place and you thought you were getting. So the only way really to stop that is to act like a local, a savvy local. Ask to see the fish being weighed and confirm the price before you cook it. Or you could just even point to the size you want and ask for the final price. Now, I mentioned at the beginning about what appeared to be free things arriving at your table as soon as you sit down. But there's another time it happens, and it's what I like to call overpriced and chargeable extras. So let's say you order perhaps a salad and ask to swap something in it. For example, the cheese or the meat on top of it, or something else. Just be careful, because sometimes you swap an item which is the same price as you've just swapped and you actually get charged for both. And building on that, be careful not being charged for side items when the dish, certainly in my view, should have them in the first place anyway. A good example of that, coming back to a salad again, is a Greek salad. So when the waiter sticks it on your table and then asks if you would like olive oil, you say, well, yeah, it should have come with it. So he says, okay, no problem, my mistake. And then he comes back and brings you a very fancy but very, very tiny bottle or even a pour of olive oil. And without realizing, you've just been charged. Likewise, if you ask for a smaller or a half-size portion that's something on the menu, make sure the price is agreed beforehand, because all too often you're going to pay the full price for something that's only half the size. So, if there's an absolutely essential rule, this is it. Always check your bill the moment it hits your table, because waiters sometimes will add, shall we say, phantom items. An extra beer, glass of wine, or even a bottle of wine, an appetizer you didn't order, or simply rounding the price up. To be fair though, it can also happen by mistake, especially during busy times. So the solution is simple yet powerful. Check your bill, line by line. But even more importantly, I guess, in some countries, the restaurant must by law provide you with a proper itemized receipt that includes their tax information. So if they only give you a little handwritten note or something just scribbled on a bit of paper or anything else, you are absolutely completely within your rights to demand a proper receipt. Because how can you check if what you've ordered is correct if you don't have a proper receipt? Oh yeah, also, if you pay by credit card rather than cash, then the restaurant can't claim you didn't pay. And you may be even to be able to claim it back through your bank or card company. And talking of the bill, and moving on to the last two things I want to tell you about. First one is what I call VAT confusion, or bill confusion. On the official receipt, you might see categories like the food item, 24%, and the drink item, what you ordered, 13%. This is not an extra charge. It's just essentially the breakdown of different tax rates. Alcohol in some countries can be taxed higher, say 24%, while basic food items are sometimes taxed at lower, for instance 13%. It's usually less of an outright scam and more of a way to confuse you if you, let's say, are already arguing about the bill. And finally, a really, really sneaky one, and it's when you pay by card. They claim it didn't go through, the transaction failed. And it's particularly used when the waiter gets into a conversation with you, asking, are you on holiday? Are you going back home soon? So you may say, oh yeah, well, it's our last day today, or we're going home first thing tomorrow. Therefore, there's a good chance you won't notice or it's too late as you're going home. So keep an eye or both eyes on the machine. Check if they've done that. If you have an app on your phone linked to the account, it may even show if it went through. But regardless, keep your physical receipt. Then you can compare it against your bank statement. So there you have it. Lots of great ways to avoid being ripped off. Obviously, not all places like that. But what I've given you there, certainly going to help, isn't it? Let me know if you have any questions or even tips, and I'll join you in the conversation. So until the next video, thanks so much for watching. Thanks for your support. I really do appreciate it. And bye.